As I travel to speak, some of the questions that I get asked quite a lot is around relationships. And some of the people that are coming to me now is mothers that are wondering how to develop relationships with their adult children. If that's you, stick around. I'm going to share some things that you can do to start to develop relationships with your adult children. But before I do, for those who are here for the first time, my name is Joanna Daniel. I'm the founder of Wounds to Scars, where we work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse. And we do that through conferences, retreats, and online courses. So, first, I want to go into this conversation around how to develop relationships with your adult children. But I'm going to talk about how some of the reasons why the relationships may break down and what you can do to start to rebuild those relationships. So I want to help as many parents as I can to connect with their children. I know this is really important to you. I know, especially as we're in this time of year where Christmas is approaching and people are wondering, should I go home or shouldn't I? It's also approaching the end of the year, and people who are wondering, how do I rebuild the relationships? How do I repair the relationships that have been broken? What are the things that I can do? We're approaching a new year, and I don't want to take this with me into the new year. So I'm going to share some of the things that you can do to build those relationships. So there are many mothers who are working hard to undo damage that were caused to their children in their younger years. And some of the things that you're doing are working, some of the things that you're doing is not working. Now, when I say damage, I don't necessarily mean through physical abuse. There are many other ways that damage is created. And for the women that I meet mostly, it's mostly around emotional, repairing lack of emotional connection. What are the things that we can do to repair lack of emotional connection? So I want you first to know that it's not the things that you're trying so far is not working because she's unforgiving, stubborn, or hard-hearted. That's not the reason it's not working. Her resistance to your efforts sometimes is part of the process. Her resistance is part of the process. It's in the resistance where trust is built. And so if you just stay with it, trust is developing in those places. If you give up, then the hard work that you've done before will go to naught, and she will think, well, I know that I couldn't trust her to stick around and to do the work, right? So the resistance is part of the hard work, and you can't afford to give up. You can't afford to succumb to anger or despair. You really need to keep going. Continue working on being a present, safe, honest person, because the resistance is trying to prove all of that. How honest are you? Are you going to stick around? Can I trust you to be here the way you weren't before? All of it is in that. And you might feel like you've proven yourself trustworthy. You worked really hard. You sent her to school. You paid tuition. You were at the wedding. You did all of these things. And now she's questioning whether or not you're going to be there. But the ways that she wants you to be there now is in emotional connection, because she doesn't need the school fee anymore. And I mean, those things we do because it's our job, it's our privilege as parents to be able to support our children. But now she's an adult and you want a relationship with her, and it's a little bit different at this time in both of your lives. So take responsibility. Some of the things that you can do is take responsibility for how you feel. You can't let her have responsibility for your anger or your despair or when you're giving up and wondering why what you're doing is not working. That's your responsibility. So your feeling of sadness that she didn't return your text on time, or your feeling of frustration that she's not inviting you over, or you don't have as much access to the grandchildren, whatever those feelings are, or whatever is the relational dynamic, those feelings are your responsibility. You have to look after them. You have to take responsibility for them. And I'm going to tell you later on how you can do that. You can't blame her when things don't work out the way you felt it should, or in the time that you feel it should. You have to take responsibility for that. Another thing is respect her boundaries. Now, it might go against everything that you're feeling, because her boundaries might mean you can't go over as often as you want, or you can't just show up. But respecting her boundaries is going to be a crucial part of building the relationship. So you have to respect her boundaries. Remember You're building trust, and trust takes time. So we don't get trust because we're just parents, we're mom or we're dad. We get trust because we work to build trust. And it's in the, remember I said, don't give up in despair or anger. And it's in those places where trust is built. So trust takes time. Keep being consistent. And trust is built in consistency. Be a person of your word. Turn up when you said you're going to turn up. Do what you said you're going to do. So that means the things that you promise, you're going to be really careful and think about what you promise, because if you can't deliver, it just solidifies, I can't trust her. Okay. She also, here's something that may be uncomfortable to sit with, but it's really important. She also needs to heal from the damage, the harm that was done when you weren't emotionally available, when you were busy and working, when you didn't have time. She needs to heal from that. And that might be uncomfortable for you or very difficult, because you might not be available emotionally because you were working really hard, but she still needed you and you still weren't there. So as parents, when we have to face those difficult parts of the relationship or the difficult parts of some of the things that happen as a result of our actions, that can be really difficult. But when you do it, it's a way for trust to be rebuilt. It's a way to say, I believe that she's ready to have the kind of relationship that I want to have with her. I believe that she's changed. I believe that she's a different person. I can trust her. So give her room to heal from whether it's the physical abuse that you now understand that was too much or you shouldn't have done, the regrets that you have. Let her know that she's going to need time to heal from it. She's going to need time to heal from your physical absence and your emotional absence. She's going to need time to heal. So here are some don'ts to do while you're trying to build this relationship. Don't try to go in as an advice giver or a person of wisdom who want to tell her what to do, because she's not going to suddenly value your opinion when you weren't there before in those crucial stages when she needed somebody and it wasn't you that was there. So just be aware that this might hurt and it might make you feel a little bit tender, but just remember that it's going to take time. So don't go in with the advice and I'm mother and you should do what I say. You have to take a different approach and stand back a little bit and build a relationship that is going to mean she's going to start coming to you when she needs advice. If the relationship had no foundation in emotional connection and the hard work of building trust hasn't been done, the advice also will just sound as, it will just be somebody who don't know me trying to give me advice. And then the advice is not going to resonate deeply because you don't know. And it's going to feel like, you don't know me. How are you telling me what to do when you don't know? Because it's not going to resonate with who she is on a whole. Take time to get to know her. Build a relationship. And it's from the place that you'll be able to offer suggestions. From a place of relationship, from a place of knowing. And even then, you may need to ask, would you like to? Is it okay? Can I offer a suggestion? You may still need to ask. We don't just have rights to our children's lives because we are their parents, right? We have to ask sometimes, depending on the ages. Heal you. I can't overstate this bit. Heal you. Ensure that you're doing the work to heal whatever caused you to be emotionally unavailable or overpunish or whatever you did in the relationship that caused it to break down. Do the work for you. One of the things I know is that sometimes women struggle and people on a whole struggle to parent through certain stages of our children's lives because it resonates so deeply with that stage in our own lives. Maybe you struggle to parent in the early years because you didn't have emotional connection or available parents in the early years. Maybe it's in the early years where the abuse happened for you. Maybe it's in the early years where you had no one to lean on and to depend on. And then when they get to that stage, you just don't know what to do because you don't have a model of what to do in that time period. Maybe it was the teen years that was tough for you and you didn't know what to do. And so maybe now they're through those years and you feel better able to manage now. But when you pulled away and your emotional absence and you were struggling, they were struggling too. Something was going on for them when it was going on for you. And sometimes it's those things that cause the relationships to break down. I remember when my daughter became 12 to 14, those were the difficult years for me. But when I saw her, I just remembered my 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old self and what I needed. And I made sure that I was giving it to her. I was overly astute. I was sensitive. I was looking. I was studying because I didn't want to miss anything for her that was missed for me. And in doing that, it was almost like I was parenting myself through those difficult years where I didn't have that, but I wanted her to not have the same experiences that I did. Now, this is not for you to judge yourself or to do any of those things for yourself. This is just information because sometimes we don't always know. We don't always know that the teen years was difficult. We don't always know why the teen years was difficult. We don't always know that we didn't really love them during that period. And sometimes mothers can find that really challenging to admit that I didn't like her when she was 10 and when she was 13 and 14. And it's not her that you didn't like. What you didn't like it's because you were triggered, because those were the years that was difficult for you. Those were the years when the abuse happened. Those were the years when nobody was around. Those were difficult stages for you and you're finding it difficult. And because it's so subconscious, you're finding it difficult, but you don't know why. But now she's through those stages. She's grown up and you want to have a connection, but she needs to heal. And so do you. If you've not been to therapy, find the root of what happened and heal that for yourself. It's really important. Another thing that might be powerful in helping to heal is to share your story. Tell her it wasn't her fault. Because what we do, we fill the gaps with information that we think is the right information. And so she might be going through a lot of difficulties around self-blame and self-hate because she believed that you couldn't connect with her because something was wrong with her. She sometimes feels unlovable. She feels that she's not valuable, she's not worthy, because why couldn't you connect? If she was valuable and worthy and lovable, you would have been able to connect. And so she blames herself. So tell her it wasn't her fault. That's really important. And take responsibility for what happened. If you're unsure about how to begin to heal, how to take responsibility, how you approach that phase, it might need that you need a guide, a therapist, a counselor to help you manage those difficult periods. If you don't know where to go or how to find one, or you're still struggling with some of the myths around counseling, we have a resource that might be useful to you. And I'll put the link in below this video. It's called I Have God, I Don't Need a Therapist. And in it, you'll find what are the things to look out for in finding a good therapist or counselor, how to find one, what are some of the questions that you can ask at your initial interview, and that can help you as a resource to begin to find one for yourself. Next time, I'm going to talk about the benefits of attachment in the mother-daughter relationships and how that can help you later on in life. But lastly, we work with a Christian community. If you're a Christian woman and you're here and this is your story and you're struggling and you want to figure out how to move forward, don't give up. The Bible says, don't get weary in well-doing. In due season you will reap if you faint not.